Ahoy! I was wrong about New World Season 8. I expected pretty much nothing, and when people asked me about it, I told them I'm expecting the new OPR map and some gimmicks, and to my surprise, there is significantly more content and upcoming content that we get teased or can test out than I expected. Now, this is not me overhyping the season and being like, this is going to be the best season ever, but this is me saying, okay, this season actually has more promise than I thought when I expected them to basically have the game on maintenance mode at this point. So we're going to look into all of the things that we have here. We're going to talk about them because I think it's interesting, and then we can talk a little bit about what the future may bring. So the first thing, what they have here as a little summary is saying they throw players into a fierce competition where they focus on high stakes risk, fast progression and massive PvP encounters. There's going to be hardcore seasonal worlds, the new Coral Divide Outpost Rush map, world bosses, preview weekends for Capture the Flag and 3v3 arena, as well as another OPR map as well, and a new Barbershop and more, for example nerfs to aim lock. Or changes to aim lock, I should rather say. So quite a few different things here that I think will at least allow people to bridge the gap until the next season if they want to play New World during that time. Now, the first thing we have are hardcore seasonal worlds. A nice little picture here, but I think I will keep this part relatively brief. So basically, if you're familiar with hardcore from any other game, then you get the idea here. You have your hardcore world where if you die, you lose certain benefits. Probably going to be very little PvP on those worlds. It's primarily probably going to be PvE worlds because you can get special elite rewards if you survive without dying, and if you die once, you will forfeit the ability to unlock the Unfallen rewards. Your character will remain, and you can still do a lot of things, and your experience will be easier, but you're losing out on this special state, whatever exactly those things are. And what they're suggesting here is, if you've never experienced some of the pinnacle group content or struggle to find a group, this server is the perfect place to power up and dive into that content with ease. So it sounds like you might be able to just solo expeditions. Leveling and gearing up is faster and with a completely different, streamlined main quest line to follow. So hopefully not the same thing as last time with Elysian Wilds. Instead, like a different storyline, which might be interesting for people to try out. The artifact equip limits are lifted as well, so if you make it to max level, you can equip as many artifacts at the same time as you like, which should lead to some very funny combinations. Say push yourself to the brink or reroll to reclaim your unfallen glory, the choice is yours. As the current state with seasonal worlds and the overall player population of New World is, I think this will have some novelty. I think people will give this a spin, see what the storyline is, but I think it's not going to be a major factor in bringing people back or in how the season is played. That's just what we've seen with the last seasonal servers. That's just not what people are after right now, and we would have to have a much bigger player base for those servers to be effective, especially in smaller regions. However, we have the new Outpost Rush map. We have tried that now, so people know what that's about. There were some changes to it, and yeah, I think that map is great. I think that's going to be something to tide at least the PvPers over for a while, along with the other things that we're going to see here, and that's what we're going to dive into here. So the next thing we have is a Capture the Flag mode, and this preview mode rather, and this preview mode. This screenshot already looks sick to me. I don't know, like this icy terrain, I think it is, or like at least it's castle terrain and the flag and everything. That's already good visuals, good start. And what they're saying about this here is that this is going to be a 10v10 mode. Obviously, Capture the Flag, a very straightforward, likely very PvP focused mode with probably not much, if any, PvE. If you play WoW, I hope this is as close to Warzone Gulch as possible. And they're saying it's a fast-paced fight to control the team's flag, score as many points or captures as you can, and there will be power-ups and jump pads in this mode to make it more competitive. I think this sounds very, very fun. This is the mode that I always wanted for New World, and of all things, this is the one thing that my biggest focus is on. Again, this is a preview. This will just be available temporarily, and the same goes for other things we're going to talk about here. But I think the fact that's in here shows promise, because if we look at this map, the Outpost Rush Divide map, that had its previews and now it's released. So likely we'll see some of the things that they're looking at or testing out released somewhat close as well. Now they are going to have the problem of figuring out how to do more maps simultaneously with possibly a not sufficient player base to fill the queues. So I don't know what they'll do about that, but that's another topic, I guess. And maybe in bigger regions with crossplay, you can find enough players for this. But I'm very, very, very excited about Capture the Flag. Now, there's also the Outpost Rush BAREBONES preview, which I think is also very interesting. I thought there's going to be no PvE, but nope, there's definitely going to be PvE still. Instead, what this BAREBONES means is all gear perks are disabled and everyone is bumped to max gear score. So, if you ever felt like your gear wasn't good enough for PvP or want to prove that you're better than your gear, then that's your chance. This sounds more experimental. This sounds more like something that is testing out to see how it feels, but I do like this. I know some people will not like this at all, but personally I always felt that gear has become extremely bloated in New World with so many perks happening, so many things that help you in various ways and reduce damage in various ways and increase damage, give you self-heal and all that. And I like the raw gameplay experience that we had after launch, where people were on a much more even ground of just having their gear and maybe one perk on them. Now it's going to be weird to not have any perks at all, just because it's gonna mean you're not even having any of your weapon perks where your build might be entirely specialized around. So you might have to adjust your build. Like, think for example Leeching Cyclone. If you take Leeching Cyclone off a build, there's a good chance you're probably not gonna run Cyclone at all. Or similar with Sweep and Coup de Grace. So there might be specific adjustments made to your builds to make this work, but it could be very, very interesting. Also going to be interesting how certain items like artifacts will work if they're also completely disabled and everything. So some things to find out, but an interesting concept to me at least. Then there is the 3v3 arena map preview. This is simply a new map, which is going to be in an ancient temple grove, and the death fog in this map will close much sooner, causing an early range advantage and then quickly becoming a melee advantage. I don't know how true that is, given that I feel like this is also a light versus heavy armor thing, where as long as you're able to kite, even in the smaller circle, you're going to be relatively fine with ranged weapons. So I don't know if this fully applies in the way they're expecting it to, but that's why it's a preview and a test after all. So fair enough in that particular case. There's going to be something entirely different. This is for the PvE side, but what's special here is that you can actually get 725 gear from this event. So there's going to be a limited time open world event with bosses from expeditions. I'm assuming it's not going to be any different from any other open world event, and it's just everyone rushing the boss. But again, you can get a gear score 715 to 725, and there is a guaranteed 725 gear score item from each event, with multiple 710 plus items. This is going to be the Mammoth Mahantaram. That's still not sure how to pronounce that one properly. Scarab Boss Capri and Fire Naga Ifrit. So a little bit of PvE here. Something very small obviously in comparison, but something to do for rewards at least. We're going to get the Barbershop, something on the cosmetic side, and there will be Barbershop tokens specifically. They're separate from the Stylemancer tokens, even though the Barbershop is at the Stylemancer, and those can be earned through gameplay or purchasable at the store. So I don't know if they're going to drop like the Stylemancer tokens did before instead. What they say here is that all players can earn a free token in the Season Pass at least. We have some seasonal events. Springtide Bloom is coming back. The Faction Fest Expeditions is happening. Choose a faction, compete in themed activities and earn rewards. I'm assuming within expeditions based on the name of that. So I'm guessing this is mainly just quests, really, or tasks. Assuming this is not going to be a super big thing, otherwise they would have given us more information. Fury of the Spring and XP boost events. Here's an overview of the Season Pass rewards. We have a couple here on the free track. 2 artifacts, Lich Gloves and Vampire Vestments. We get to those in a second. A couple dice, couple skins, all that stuff. And then on the premium track, you get 9 weapon skins, 5 armor skins, and 5 additional dice. The new artifacts, however, are a lot more interesting to me personally. First one is the Old Crown, a headpiece. I'm not sure what weight that is. That is not mentioned here. This comes with +10 to all attributes and comes with a bonus to gem functionality. Whatever that may mean, but that is going to be interesting. Otherwise, I feel like it would be too similar to a tuned leather pants or tuned pants if it was just that. So there's got to be something more to that with that functionality. Relentless is a tower shield with a team armor aura and enhanced healing. This is basically one of the, well, not artifacts, but one of the special items from the last seasonal server, I think, with some adjustments probably. Not going to be the same mitigation levels as there, but this could be nice. This could be very fun in wars and any group fighting scenario, really. Vampire vestments are light chests coming with lifesteal and mana synergy. Need to know what exactly the synergy here is, but that is again something that's on the interesting side. Wit is a sword that increases your threat and damage mitigation on crits. Sword, not really an aggressively used weapon for PvE speedrunning as far as I'm aware as of late anyways. It might be here and there as Butcher, but this I think might give it a different approach where you're focusing on crits and tank with that. Or maybe even not just in PvE, maybe this is also a PvP thing with a damage mitigation on crits, depending on how much mitigation that is. So I think this could be very interesting in terms of what it allows to do for like different playstyles. There's a blunderbuss called Chaos, which allows you to launch enemies with fiery blast shots. So I'm assuming that's a significant knockback, which I would love to see and hate to play against, because between net shot slowing you down and then blast shot firing you back significantly, that would be very rough to play against. So we'll see how much that really is, so it's mainly about the fiery part of it. So yeah, either way, could be good. We have Runic Greaves, Heavy Feet, speed boost after using Heart Runes. Seems super niche to me. Maybe something that could be useful for bruisers in wars when they charge in, but I don't see how you would ever want that above just the significant mitigation or health that you can get from other pieces. So yeah, don't know. And the Lich Gloves, Light Hands, and power stacking with ability usage. That, of course, sounds very strong on paper. We need to see the numbers for that. There's some tech enhancements as well, improved performance for certain GPUs, and DirectX 12 is enabled by default on Steam for better stability and graphics. Unfortunately, my PC still can't run that. And then there are some combat and quality of life updates. Some are quite significant here, some are quite important, I would say. For example, we have the PvP camps now being destructible. If you place a camp down while flagged, that's a flagged camp and everyone can still bind that, but enemies can take that down. So if you're fighting over an influence race point then or tower, then this is something you can do. You have people playing influence races first, but in those cases where you can find those people, this is going to be quite interesting, impactful, might be more impactful in the future. You can now ready up in PvP matches, which is fantastic. I don't like the long arena wait times, so I'm happy about that. There's a spectator cam that is enabled after death in select game modes. I'm assuming this is going to be 3v3s, maybe the new Capture the Flag, maybe Outpost Rush, probably not Wars. That's my guess so far. But this could be cool for like montage type stuff as well, depending on how this spectator cam works. Survival potions. There are 5 new potions to choose between to modify different aspects of survivability in combat. And these are not what we were all worried about, which was the automatic potions. Instead, we have first of all a burst regen potion. This gives you a small burst of healing initially, followed by a passive regen for a duration, so kind of the middle between what we have at the moment. Then there's the health shot potion, which is exactly what I would typically use because it's more spammable, so it's like similar to a health potion but provides less healing but can be used more often. The problem is if you're using that, you also have to use potions more often, locked in the animation, so probably not ideal depending on how much it heals. The shield potion grants damage reduction for 3 hits taken. This lasts until the timer runs out or until the hits are taken. I'm assuming this would probably not include dots because otherwise this would be eaten up too quickly, too often. How much reduction is exactly is another question, because this would have to be quite a lot of reduction to offset a healing potion. Then we have the grid potion, which I think is very interesting. This grants you the uninterruptible effect for the duration, so that could be very annoying. This could be very much a new war meta, I feel like you are still potting as a bruiser, for example, but if you have a good healer, then that should be not something you need to do all too often, and instead I think you will be dropping those grid potions, maybe even going back to grid ward builds, and then do your hard engage while the grid potion's running. Depends on the cooldown, duration, everything, of course, but I think there's a lot of potential in this one. And there's also a lot of potential for really messy combinations of abilities that were not really that usable before, that don't have grid, and that makes them weaker. So yeah, this is a very spicy one. Lifesteal Potion increases the power of all lifesteal effects for the duration. What this is going to be is yet to be seen. Maybe this will work well if you have like a full leech build with the ring and everything, Blood Drinker. Because otherwise, again, I would think that the healing you get from lifesteal is not that significant compared to a potion in most situations, unless we're talking about AoE stuff. So you have to be very specialized to really get a lot of value out of this, I think. Unless they make it overpowered, of course. And then they have target lock updates. So the wording here is saying that this was obviously all added primarily to assist controller players, but they felt that when combining target lock and aim assist, it made aiming almost unnecessary for controller players. So they feel that harmed the skilled nature of their combat, which is what literally everyone told them. So they made some changes to target lock to bring back the skill. That is something I will question based on the changes they're making, but at least they're testing the waters. They've reduced the amount of aim assist you receive when locked onto enemy players on a controller, making it harder to hit moving targets. But they've also tuned aim assist to work better with controller outside of target lock, and this is very important because this is a very, very major part of why projectiles are so sticky and everything. That has nothing to do with target lock. That is just turn on a controller, or like plug in a controller on a PC and you can feel the same thing. Just shoot at someone and suddenly the arrows go in a curve. The aim assist in comparison, the target lock in comparison isn't even that impactful. It is still, of course, but like this is like a really, really big deal. So them amplifying that, making it stronger somehow, might actually have the opposite effect of what they're trying to achieve. You need to see that. It depends on the exact adjustments and how much they're tweaking it in which direction. But yeah, something to keep an eye on at least. The goal was for target lock to still be useful in certain situations, but players must now manage it more actively since it isn't as simple as locking on a target and expecting everything to hit. Also, target lock now breaks when your target moves behind the camera. This is going to be really, really important in combat because this is going to be something that's relevant for all the positioning that you might want to do in combat now if you think you're playing against someone who is on target lock. This was changed to add more counterplay to target lock, as you can dodge through someone to break their lock, and it's now more difficult to track a target that's actively trying to disengage your lock. Target lock now also breaks when entering aimed on sights. How big of a deal that is, probably more like a musket thing, really. Some people were like messing about with that. Can't say if that's going to be super impactful because I feel like a lot of people weren't using that much aiming down sights in the first place. But then again, I think for bow, this is going to be a pretty heavy hit if you were using bow with aim lock. So yeah, again, I think this is going to be a relevant nerf, but only for specific playstyle, specific builds, really, that I think boils it down. And then they'll be keeping an eye on this feature in the future, and we'll be making more tweaks and dial things as needed. So, again, relatively big patch overall, more than I expected. Positive surprise on my end. Waited for anything to happen for a long time. I think this is still going to be a relatively mild season for New World, especially because it's probably going to clash with the June launch, and I know a lot of New World players are interested in that. So we'll see how it goes. We'll see what this results in, but I do think that there are at least some things that I will hop into the game for because I want to see what they're like, primarily. Definitely the Capture the Flag mode, but also the Outpost Rush BAREBONES, also the new 3v3 map. Also going to play a little bit of the Coral Divide and grab some items from the Expeditions Unleashed. So a few things that I think are worth having a look at, checking out, and then deciding how much time you want to spend on them. But yeah, overall, positive news on the New World front for once, and I'm of course Very excited about that. If you want to hear more about New World or about June, then consider subscribing and clicking the bell so you get notified of upcoming video. And if you'd like to support me further, you can do so on Patreon. Thanks to all of my patrons where I do exactly that, and thank you for watching. Sloth out.